Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast, joined by Phil Perry, and the Senator and I are going to go deep on the decision by the Patriots to not just release Cam Newton, but more importantly, in my mind, dub Mac Jones their starter for 2021. We'll also hit on the Stephon Gilmore decision. He is going to pup. I have some questions, and also scattershot Quinn Nordin is our new kicker in New England, Phil. All that and more on Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast.
It's time, world champion, and there ain't nothing you can do about
it. Phil, what's going on, my guy?
We calling this the Victory Lap podcast?
No,
we're not. You
I
sure
don't
about
know.
that?
Here's the thing, especially relative to you. I didn't think Mac Jones was going to be this good. You know, I called him. I said in April, I'm like, well, they already have Mac Jones on the roster. His name's Jarrett Stidham. So I wasn't as wise to how good this player was going to be as you were. The only thing that I based his starting on was what I've seen since minicamp: proficiency, accuracy, decision-making, poise, the ability to rebound from bad days. And the Patriots coaching staff just throwing more and more and more at him. But over the last week, Phil, when people were wondering whether or not he was going to get a chance to start, I based everything on what I was seeing in terms of reps and performance, feeling that in my heart of hearts, being afraid of him starting or being afraid of a Cam Newton reaction was not going to be as important to Bill Belichick as just going with the better player.
And we were in lockstep on that. Bill Belichick not being risk averse, but risk tolerant, right? And going with the upside when it makes sense. And we've talked about the idea of progress stoppers. Do you start with a veteran guy and give him a job when there's a young player who's really coming on and showing a lot of progress and could really benefit your team when you're hoping to hit your stride at season's end? I believe he believes in those things as well. Where we diverted ever so slightly was most recently in the last podcast. We talked about it. I was thrown off. I was thrown off by the scent on Sunday night when Cam Newton got all the reps with the ones, but you were all over it in that the competition was still ongoing, and Bill Belichick, I believe now, was just trying to even out the reps. Mac Jones got all the first team reps against the Giants on Wednesday. They split the first team opportunities on Thursday. So Sunday, if we're looking at that 3-day span in a vacuum, Sunday was Cam's turn to balance out the scales. That's how I think in the end, Bill Belichick was looking at that. That's how you felt he was looking at it at the time. And so I give you all the credit in the world. Because again, that 30 years of football watching experience and understanding that third preseason game, what it usually means, that threw me off the scent ever so slightly. Although here on the Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast, Tom, we never slammed the door. We never slammed the door. Never.
No, there was a lot of door slamming all over New England. There was a lot of stock put into Bill Belichick's statements of Cam's our starter, Cam's our starter, blindly following those words and not looking at the context around them. And I just thought that was kind of a bad job by the media in general. And plenty of folks here at our place too would say, but he said he was a starter. I said, but he said he was the starter until somebody plays better than him. But he said he was a starter, but he has to establish a level. You know,
hard decision. The same day he said Cam's our starter at the beginning of camp, he said, I'm sure it's going to be a hard decision. There's a decision to make there. The door is open. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, we had folks, Ben Volen saying it's not a competition early in camp. From the Boston Globe, paper or record. He's a national football writer, saying it's not a competition. What are we looking at out here? And then, again, it makes sense to look at the starter in the preseason games and say, well, why would they not go with the guy who started? To me, what really clinched it was going back and looking at the reps. You really think Cam Newton, having an abbreviated 2020, where he got here in June, had an issue with COVID, didn't play well, was still immersing himself in the playbook, missed a week of this training camp, and then only had 2 series against the Eagles and 2 series against the Giants, and threw 4 passes in his only work on Friday? I just said it's not enough work. It's not enough work to go with him. So that all being the case, that's as close as I'll get to a victory lap, because, we're just watching this stuff and making a guess.
We're just calling it like we see it, though, right? I mean, that's all we can do. And we were doing it, obviously, honestly, but after having been at every practice and tracking every throw and watching every interaction and every decision and trying our best to analyze it. And so I think we've done a good job.
That they're ultimately going to go with the guy who played better. You can't go wrong if you said that. That's why, it didn't bother me to walk out on that plank, because even if I got it wrong, I knew eventually I'd get it right. And the interesting thing about when we talked earlier, and I didn't think that Jarrett Stidham would start the season until Cam Newton became an impediment to the offense's success. If we look at Sunday's game, yeah, the pick wasn't horrendous when you look at the decision. Could it have been gone out? Whatever. If you look at the throw prior to that to Nelson Aguilar in the flat, Cam Newton stepping in the bucket, throwing a 2-yard out to the flat inside the 10 that didn't really have a lot on it. Those are the kind of hidden plays that you see that the result's fine. It seems inoffensive, but do you know how close that is to being a touchdown the other way? You know which play I'm talking about there?
Yes.
I mean, it's just, and those are the things that's an impediment to your team's offensive success. When you see downfield throws to Christian Wilkerson and N'Keal Harry and Kendrick Bourne in the preseason that are hitting guys in the hands and not being caught, you're seeing somebody else get something out of those players that Cam just generally doesn't do.
Mac Jones would have had staggering preseason numbers, by the way, if that ball to Christian Wilkerson is caught, the ball to N'Keal Harry is caught, a touchdown to Devin Asiasi, a touchdown to Isaiah Zuber. I mean, it would have been a lot easier, I think, for people to say, wait, hold on a second. This guy's got a quarterback rating that's approaching perfect here. Should
1,500 yards
should we not be looking at the fact that this guy could be the starter for the Patriots? But I wonder if people will look at this now and say, well, Cam really didn't get a crack, or he didn't get a fair crack, because you mentioned it, Tom, the reps were what they were, and he missed 3 days of practice due to a COVID misunderstanding. The reps in Philly in the preseason game weren't all that much. The reps in Washington weren't all that much. But Bill Belichick, I thought he did a pretty good job describing where the quarterback competition stood on WEEI actually earlier this week, where he said, listen, in general, the older guys are guys that don't need to play as much in preseason, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, but because we know what they are. The younger guys you generally want to give a little bit more time to. But he also talked about when it's a competitive situation. And when it's a competitive situation, you want both guys to have a fair shot at winning that competition. And so I think there was this fine line they were trying to toe, and they had to balance all of this where they knew what Cam was, and they wanted to give Mac a lot of work, but they also wanted to give Cam a fair shot at it too. And I think it was going to be really hard for them to pull off both of those things. And I'm just wondering how you felt as though they did as far as that goes, giving Cam the shot he needed while also saying, but he's been in the league a decade, so we kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you have to compare them, but you also have to operate in a vacuum to a degree as well. So when Cam would have a pick in the red zone in Philly on a throw on 3rd and 4 with 7 seconds left, when he could have thrown it out of the end zone on that situation to Asiasi. And I'm going back to a specific play in Philadelphia. 3rd and 4 in a competitive joint practice, gotta have it. And on almost every gotta have it situation, Cam Newton failed to have it. But in this one, it was 3rd and 4, 7 seconds left. They told Cam Newton, get it in the end zone. So on 3rd and 4, he threw to Devin Asiasi into a Philadelphia Eagles cornerback team meeting, was intercepted. And Cam could have thrown it out of bounds and had 4th and goal from the 4 with 3 seconds left, trailing by 4. That was the situation. Those are mistakes that show up. And those are mistakes that you can maybe take once or twice from a guy who's been in the league for 3 months. But it counts worse against a guy who has been in the league for 11 years. So that's where all things aren't equal. Error repeater type things. The fundamentals, the mechanics, the inaccuracy, all of those things are facts of life. But when they become an impediment to your team's success, they're an issue. Phil, I had an idea of something I'm going to do here. It's a little exercise. Between 1 and 10, the reason we are where we are.
Okay.
1 and 10, Cam's vaccination status.
I'm hesitating because I think the door had opened for Mac Jones, and the performances he had with Cam out really did matter here. So I'm going to put it at a 6.
Okay. I would say between 6 and 8, because all things being equal, and I don't even think they were equal. I think that Mac Jones was the better player.
Right.
All things being equal, you want to go with the vaccinated player. But you're exactly right. And they also got a glimpse at just how tenuous Cam Newton's availability was. I mean, he missed a test. He got a test, but he missed the right kind of test.
Mm-hmm.
And we lose him for 5 days. What if there's a close contact? Who's positive? I mean, he could take down the whole friggin' quarterback room.
What if he tests positive? I mean, we know
between 6 and 8.
We know vaccinated players can test positive as well, but what if he, there's a greater likelihood that he would test positive, and then you're out 10 days.
And I mentioned these stats recently on a pod too. This was from a story a week or so ago, so it's changed. But the number of breakthrough infections in Massachusetts was at 12,000 about 8 to 10 days ago, which was 0.03 of the population who had been vaccinated. So it doesn't happen that much. If you get vaccinated, chances are real low that you're going to end up having. Go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to say the only reason I put it closer to 6 is just because of what Mac Jones had done all on his own. Vaccinated, unvaccinated, he's the better player.
Well, let's get to that.
He'll be the better player down the line.
1 in 10, Mac Jones is poised. He's the quarterback now. How much because of that?
I don't think it's as high as something like accuracy. I think his poise is good, and so I'll put that at a 7. But Tom, two delay of game penalties in the last week. We do see him kind of get a little bit upset time to time, and he's always bounced back, and I think that's a big reason why he won the job too. But I think that's something worth watching.
Mac Jones' physical build and health between 1 and 10.
For why we are where we are, it's got to be I'm going to put it at a 5.
It's a 3.
It's at a 5. You know why? Because he was.
I bet it was a concern.
He impressed, I think, in terms of the ability to take all the reps and perform well to the end. I think
that was walking across the Sahara.
Yeah, but his body, you gotta have some sort of not only physical stamina but mental stamina there too. So his body is what it is. I don't know what's going on with his knee. I don't know if he's really dealing with something, or if that's just a protective brace as he's told us. But you got to have some physical something to you to be able to last the way he did in some of those practices. So I think it hurts him, but it also helped him. That's why I'm going 5 right down the middle there.
It's interesting. And I say 3 because he's going to hit the rookie wall like they all do. And the Patriots have buried him. He has been buried mentally and physically for the last month. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be a real test of poise and composure for him, and stamina, mental and physical. And it's interesting. Bill Belichick noted on Monday in his conference call that he's going to spend time this week with guys getting their dings fixed and getting up to speed. So this is a big week for Mac Jones to get into that float tank thing that you used to talk about, Phil. You did
the sensory deprivation tank.
Yep. Get in there.
Yeah.
Get in there.
Recover. It's a big part.
He might've been in it when they announced that Cam was getting released. He'll pop out all covered with salty water.
All wrinkly.
Yeah. You're a quarterback. Oh, really? I am. I got to perfect the Mac Jones imitation.
You're going to have some time.
No doubt. Should I do more 1 in 10s?
Can I just say your 1 in 10s? How many of them were focused on Cam? And how much does that speak to the fact that this was Mac versus Mac? And the fact that Mac is ready to go. That's why you make this decision. Because Cam, Tom, you've said this, and I've said it too. Cam hasn't played badly. He hasn't fallen on his face here. Has he played as well as Mac Jones? No, we would agree on that. But has he been bad, outright bad? I'm not willing to go that far either. I still think they would have won 10 games if Cam Newton was a starter in 2021 for them.
So that being the case, would the Patriots be better right now if Cam Newton had stayed with the team, whether it was his request or the Patriots' decision to move on from him? Would the Patriots be a better team in 2021 with Cam Newton still on the roster?
If the game was played on a spreadsheet, yes. Meaning you take emotions out of it, you take interplayer dynamics out of it, you take the media out of it. Yes. To have that guy as a weapon in the red zone and in short yardage and use him as a gadget play every so often, yes, they're a better team with him. Are they better, though, in real life with Cam Newton sitting there on the sidelines every time Mac Jones throws an interception his rookie year, and us wondering if Bill's going to go to Cam, and the players maybe that are still left in the locker room who really like Cam, some of them, wondering, is Bill going to go to Cam? I don't know if that helps your team.
No. Additionally, with a diminished role, look, I think I know the Cam Newton ran for 600 yards last year, and I know they ran for 12 touchdowns. And I think I'd have to double check the stat. He ran for 52 first downs. He ran for 52 first downs last year. That's astounding. The Patriots would be a better team with him as an arrow in their quiver that they could pull out and fire into the sun, and if necessary. But he's gone. But that role would have been hard for him to swallow, perhaps. So that is not in a vacuum either. Cam, we got you as our third down back. Awesome. Just tell me when you need me. It's not going to happen that way. Will he ever have to take a snap in anger in the NFL, Phil? Again,
I think he might. I think the fact that he's got this Patriots experience now and he's got that Patriots scent on him might make him more attractive than he was a year plus ago when he was still looking for a job. I think the fact that he got through basically a full season without physical injury would make him a little bit more attractive than he was when he was still looking for a job last year. Remember, there were all kinds of health concerns with Cam Newton at the time, and there still should be, right? We don't know if the shoulder's ever going to be fully right.
Especially if he's going for a second opinion.
He's going for a second opinion. He's still not vaccinated. All of those things are going to factor into him maybe not getting a job. But at least he's played through a full camp. He's played through a full season. The foot's okay. The shoulder's okay enough for him to be able to throw the football. He probably should get another shot as a backup somewhere, as long as the vaccination thing doesn't get in his way. Tom, do you think the Patriots, in your heart of hearts, do you think they asked Cam Newton to stick around as the number 2?
My sense is that they hoped that they could see their way clear to that happening. If it came to pass, and obviously it did, I think the hope would be on the team that they would be able to have an experienced, charismatic guy who could be a unifier and not be an asshole about it.
I agree with
the
you.
point that you make, Phil, doesn't necessarily mean he's an asshole if they decided it was going to be tenuous. And that's the thing I think we both agree on. Cam Newton wasn't an asshole in any way, shape, or form. He took 3 benchings last year and dealt with it. He was supportive of the kid all the way through. Now, I don't think Cam Newton knew at all. Let me ask you this, because I know how I feel. Do you think Cam Newton was blindsided by this? Because I think he was.
The Instagram post makes me hesitate. He had that Instagram post on Sunday, right before the game, where it says QB1 next to his jersey.
And I think he was just using his jersey number.
It's a QB number 1, though, right next to the jersey number 1 that was already there. It felt like,
I know, but why use number 1? And he also had the date on the Instagram post.
I
mean, we spent a lot of time.
The reason why he wouldn't be blindsided, Tom, was because he knew as soon as they drafted Mac Jones in the first round that his time was running out. I just think maybe he heard he was going to be starting on Sunday and he got a little bit loose with the social media, and maybe he was blindsided by it. Maybe he thought because he was starting in that game that he was going to be the starter week 1. He certainly looked like a happy-go-lucky guy. He's dancing. He's leading the huddle, talking a lot. I mean, I think he probably was pretty blindsided by this.
Yeah, I think so too. In the end, did the Patriots make the right choice?
I believe so.
Are you concerned? That's a stupid question. We've already hit that. That's a dumb question. Why even go down that road?
Well, there's a financial component to this too. This is the right choice.
But I don't want to hit that. I want to hit the backup stuff.
Go ahead.
Is it better to have Brian Hoyer? I mean, is it satisfactory that you have Brian Hoyer as your only backup right now with Jarrett Stidham in the offing if he comes back? I think that's okay.
It's not ideal. If your backup's playing in general in the NFL, your team's screwed. So to me, who your backup quarterback is doesn't matter that much. Outside of catching fire with somebody like Nick Foles, you're going to find situations are very few and far between where they end up working out for a team that has to turn to its backup quarterback. So it's not offensive to me. It's not offensive to me.
Devil's advocate then, what about Brian Hoyer's performance against Kansas City last year? Doesn't that give you pause?
Of course. But again, anytime your backup's playing, you're probably going to lose. So I'm chalking that up to losses if the backup has to play, which is the case in most places. Yeah.
And you got to look at the context of that start. And I'm not making excuses for the guy, but I'm going to give you a couple of reasons.
Oh boy. Cam
tested positive when? Friday? Then they played Tuesday. They didn't get to practice because they were out. So it was still kind of a dirty bomb for Brian Hoyer to have to get out there.
I just would love to know, and I'm trying to find this out. I just would love to know if they wanted him
to stay
as the number 2. Yeah. Because I think they would have liked it if it would have worked from Cam's perspective. Because just from talking to a few people, Tom, in the building, there were people who were surprised, not necessarily that Mac won, but that Cam was gone. And so I think they really would have liked to keep him around. I don't know that for a fact when it comes, there's one guy who matters, Bill Belichick, and Josh McDaniels matters a lot, but it's Bill's decision. But did I just flip that around? Did I have that right?
No, you got it right.
Okay. It's Bill Belichick's decision, so it really only matters to him. So I would just love to know what that conversation was like between those two guys, Cam and Bill.
Phil and I get pretty talked out sometimes, folks, just so you know.
I've been mixing up Cam and Mac all summer, Tom, because their names are just the inverse of each other. And now, Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick, I'm wondering if I'm getting those guys straight. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of words being spent on this, which is good. And we're enjoying it. It's just, they come out wrong sometimes.
Content. All right, let's put that in a box and move it to the side. I'm sure we're going to hear more from Cam Newton. And of course, we're going to be hearing more about the quarterback position and Mac Jones and giving you our perspective on that as we move forward. And Mac Jones is going to have his days that look like Tom Brady against the Miami Dolphins in his second career start, where he lost 30-10 and threw for 86 yards. Those days are going to happen. But again, we're going to put that to the side because what would have been a story that carried our week, Stephon Gilmore, also came down today. Patriots are going to put him on the PUP list going into the season, which means he's going to be down for the first 6 games of the year, Phil. So this $7 million salary, I believe he's going to make now for 11 games as opposed to 17 games. So in essence, it's a prorated bump to his salary, still not what they're looking for. With Steph, Mike Giardi reported that in June he was running full speed. Josina Anderson spoke to Stephon Gilmore on July 8th, and Gilmore said that if he had to, he could run full in training camp. It's now September 1st, in essence, and he still hasn't gotten on the field as a full participant to show the Patriots what they would be buying if they gave him a bump or gave him a new contract. Are the Patriots wrong to not find the common ground that Stephon Gilmore said that they were looking for?
No, not yet. To me, you have to see what the player can do. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's coming off a serious injury. He still hasn't played. And I understand Stephon Gilmore's hesitancy here. He doesn't want to get on the field, maybe further injury, or, subject himself to further risk of injury for sure, and never get that second contract that he's hoping to get after this year.
Or to just interject, or he feels as if I'm just going to stay on the cards that I've put down here. I'm going to stay. I'm at 17. I'm going to stay. I've got a defensive player of the year. I had a good, not great 2020 for 11 games. I'm not going to run around out there and show you some kind of limp. Pay me for what I've done for you, which exceeded what you thought I was going to get, even though I made a lot.
Sure.
So maybe that's part of it too, Philly.
I would not be surprised. But if you're the Patriots, even if he was blatantly open with you about it that way, and disarmingly honest, the way that in the way that you just described, wouldn't you, if you're Bill Belichick, say, I get it, man. I understand, but I can't give you more money.
Can't give you any of Bob's money.
If I can't give you more of Bob's money, if you can't go out there and look like a legitimate number one corner for us, I can't do it. And that doesn't even bring in the fact that if you're Bill Belichick, you might be setting a precedent that you don't want to set. The CBA just went to great lengths. The owners just went to great lengths so that players could no longer essentially hold out or could no longer do so without taking on a serious financial burden themselves. And now you're going to go and just say, oh, it doesn't matter because we're just going to bend the knee every time somebody decides to hold in. It's just,
you want to blow off camp.
I don't think the owner's going to be very happy about that.
6 weeks.
I don't think the owner, the owner couldn't be very happy about that, right? Because even though he spent all this money, Tom, is he looking to shell out more? Is he dying to shell out more? I think
about that, Philly. So you spend in the seven. Not only that, he's taking up $16 million worth of cap space, but I know that's ephemeral. It's not real. It's just vapor, but it takes up space and does prevent you from doing things. But additionally, so you're going to pay him his salary 7 for 17 games. So 3.5. So call it $2.75 million you're going to spend for no services. Whatever it would have been for training camp, you're going to pay him for that too. I don't know how they get paid, stipend or some ridiculousness. Meanwhile, Cam Newton was paid $3 million guaranteed when all said and done. There might be some offset if he signed someplace else.
Just over 3. He'll make just over 3. So
between these two guys, you're just flaming $5 million.
You don't become a great businessman if you're Robert Kraft by just shrugging your shoulders at every handful of $1 million that, every decision that is going to cost you $5 or $6 or $7 or $8 million and say, yeah, what's another 8? It's just, I think a move like this would factor in the owner. I'm not sure he would be thrilled to just hand over more money. And I don't think Bill Belichick wants to set that precedent. And he's going to want to know what Stephon Gilmore looks like before he's willing to make that move. This is one of those situations, Tom, where I understand both sides here. Yep. And I generally like to lean toward the player, but the way you pose the question, it's not a mistake for the Patriots to play it the way they've played it. I don't think.
And it's an individual who was paid at the top of the market when he came out. And I keep referring to 11 games last year. So when you think about it, the salary, and again, it's an injury, so I maybe shouldn't even go down this road, but the 5 games he missed at the end of last year and the 6 games he's going to miss at the beginning of this year, that's 11 games he's going to cash checks for not working. And again, the 5 games he's hurt, it's actually unfair. I reel that back off. But, you're paying money to someone who's not participating. Last year by bad luck, misfortune. This year by choice, unless we are going to believe what does strain credulity that he is injured. How screwed are the Patriots at the cornerback position right now, Phil?
I was just going to say, come back to me in 6 weeks and ask me if it was a mistake for the Patriots to play it the way they played it. Because I believe, based on conversations I've had, that, and what we've seen, Jalen Mills is going to be your number 2 corner outside the numbers if you're the New England Patriots. That's not an ideal situation.
Not an ideal situation, he says.
You have, I believe, not a defensive player of the year candidate on your hands in JC Jackson, but I think he's a true number 1. I would defend my stance on that. I felt that way last year, right before he got kind of lit up by the Jets. But I did feel that way last year about him because not every number 1, quote unquote, number 1 is a defensive player of the year candidate. There's a lot of number 1s out there that won't even sniff the Pro Bowl next year, but they're still quality number 1 corners. I think JC Jackson is a number 1 corner. I think Bill Belichick probably views it that way as well. And he's saying we can get by. We can get by with Jalen Mills as our number 2 because, Tom, We've got this front now that is going to pressure quarterbacks like nobody's business. And if you want to drop back and hold on to the football for 4.5 seconds behind center and try to hit somebody down the field because they're running by Jalen Mills, congratulations, go for it. But you're going to have a Matt Judon sniffing your chin strap, or you're going to have a Josh Uche right on your back.
Josh Judon or a Matt Uche.
Did I say Josh Judon?
No, or a Devon Guy or a Lawrence Godshaw.
You know where my brain is at right now when it comes to these names. Don't mess with me, man. Why are you messing with me? The schnozberries taste like schnozberries. No, I just feel like that is probably the approach. Jalen, be aggressive at the line of scrimmage. Do you? That's what he's an aggressive in a phone booth kind of guy that I think he can have some success.
We got smart safeties who are going to cover your ass.
Sure. And we got defensive linemen that aren't going to let you get beat deep because the quarterback's going to be hit before he can get the ball out. I think that's probably how they'll try to play it. Surprising.
They weren't that hot against the Giants running game the other day. I'm going to just veer here for a second. I'm in the studio here at the Boston Media Center here in Needham, and I'm taking a look at the projected weather map. I'm supposed to be on vacation this week.
Oh boy.
Why are you taking vacation during the week when they're doing cut downs? Well, it's kind of a principle thing, guys. You know, like you have a week and you end up not taking it. So I said to my boss, I'm not losing those days and rolling them next year. He goes, all right, well, just take the days after the Giants game. So I took them. And now I know I'm probably not going to use them because it's going to be a busy week, but I'm watching the map. The map. See the map up there, guys? It's going to rain on Wednesday. Today's no okay day, but Thursday it's going to rain definitely. Wednesday it might rain. I'm not going to get the golf in that I wanted to. 3.22 inches on Friday. I better clean the closet. Good time of year to clean the closet. Be that as it may.
I got an idea.
Okay.
Take your vacation week 5. Houston Texans. No quarterback controversy. Just stick around this week. Week 5 will be nice.
That's not a horrible idea, guy.
We'll be coming off of Brady Bowl.
They're going to beat the shit out of us going into the Brady stuff. Just pummel us.
Yeah. So maybe I would say start like the Tuesday after the Brady game, because we're going to want to rehash on Monday.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah.
And then maybe right after that, though, once we've put that thing to bed, then you can take off and you come back after they've just beaten Ryan Izzo and the Houston Texans. Although I think
Ryan Izzo with the Texans or Cam Newton's Houston Texans.
I think Izzo got released. So sorry to.
That's not that far fetched. All right, folks. Patriots making releases as they try and get down to 53. We got a few releases to give to you, and additionally, we're going to button this up before 4:00 comes and goes. So here's some of the guys who are absent from practice today that we don't know quite yet what their determination is. It's Brian Hoyer, Cody Davis, Michael Jackson, Anthony Jennings, James Ferentz, Corey Cunningham, Nick Thurman, and Tayshawn Bauer. All of those guys are missing practice. We don't have any word on those players yet. Guys who have been released, though, and the ones that are jumping out at us is, first off, Nick Folk, the kicker. Kind of a stunning move to me, because that means Quinn Nordin, scattershot Quinn Nordin is your kicker. Phil, weigh in while I look for more releases.
Yeah, I don't want this to be blown out of proportion, but we did say, I believe I've said it on the podcast, not this one on Next Pats, that if Mac Jones was determined to be the guy week 1, it wouldn't surprise me if Cam Newton wasn't on the roster. The fact that Nick Folk isn't on the roster is almost more of a surprise today in some ways, because he was just so consistent when he was out there, Tom, and Nordin was so inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going with the big leg and the potential over Steady Eddie. I think the only reason that I could make this make some sense to myself is that maybe because Nordin's leg is so big, you worry about him getting through waivers and onto the practice squad. Somebody else is willing to just grab him and make him a developmental guy. If you keep Nordin, you prevent him from getting somewhere else. You release Nick Folk. Folk is, I don't want to say this for sure, but Tom, the guy was almost retired a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really that worried about him not being available to you week 5, 6, 7 if you need him.
Well,
Pick up the bat phone and call yourself up a Nick Folk if things get sideways with Nordin.
Yeah, I talked to him last week about his family situation because I think that's pertinent when you have a chance. And he said, look, I got 4 kids. They're still all down in Dallas. So he's up here by himself. He's just going to go back to Dallas, I'm sure, and wait for the phone to ring, whether it's the Patriots or someone else. But he's got 4 young kids, twin 8-year-olds, I think, a 6 and a 4. So he's not going to start touring the country to see if there's another place out there that wants him. He's either going to probably kick here or good chance, and he didn't say this, he'll kick nowhere. So at least you got him on the line if Quinn just starts hitting the concourse and the scoreboard and the moose.
Can I ask you something?
Sure, why not?
You just glossed right over a quarterback name, not a practice. This practice is going on, by the way.
I said Hoyer.
I know, but what do you think about that? We're just going to act like that's not a big deal? Shouldn't that be a big deal?
Well, I don't have anything on it yet.
Here's my guess. Okay. If you're trying to figure out a way to get somebody like N'Keal Harry, for instance, onto IR, you need to figure out a roster spot for that guy. If you release Brian Hoyer today, he does not have to go through waivers. He's a vested veteran. He can stick around at home here in the area. Wait 24 hours. His roster spot could go to N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry 24 hours from now can go on IR so that he doesn't have to miss the full season on IR. He just has to miss at least 3 games. Once he goes on IR, you can bring Brian Hoyer back if that's how it works out. I don't know if that's going to be the case. This thing could be dated by the time we hit publish, but it wouldn't shock me if Brian Hoyer was used in that fashion. Hey, Brian, you're not going to make the initial roster, but you're going to be on by tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
For those of you watching on YouTube, yes, that was a hiccup / hungry burp when I recoiled like that. Any of the other guys jumping out to you who were released? Akeem Spence is a name. I mean, Miles Bryant, hurt, somewhat capable, gone. D'Angelo Ross, was he released?
He was.
See that? So they're going corner is a concern. Corner is an issue.
That's why I think Bryant was a little bit of a surprise to me.
Are you going to hit some of this on the next Pats tomorrow once it's all done? And I would imagine.
We'll do a run through.
All right, folks, do me a solid, okay? Because it's vacation. I'm hungry. It's been kind of.
This is anything but vacation.
And
the opposite.
I got to get something to eat because I've been up here at the studio since the thing, and so I'm going to jump off here. You're going to see on Early Edition in Boston Sports Tonight a list of all the names. And I apologize, we're not going to go chapter and verse on them, but Phil will have it on his next Pats podcast. We're kind of TBD on whether or not we're going to be back with a Patriots Talk podcast on Thursday. I got a feeling that it's going to rain, and I'm going to say, look, count me back in. This isn't a vacation day. I'm working. We'll see about that. Wonder if I can get away with that. Don't send this to HR. They might say I can't do it. All right, folks, enjoy your day. And yeah, the nose nailed it. Phil, tell them how I nailed it. Phil, tell them.
Sorry, you cut out there. Reception must be bad in the newsroom. Sorry about that.
See you guys.
Bye.